Bong Joon Ho's film Parasite has quickly become one of the most popular and widely discussed films of 2019 and 2020, especially after winning the Oscar for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Foreign Language Film. Parasite became the first ever foreign language film to win Best Picture in a year stacked with great films from legendary directors like Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese. Currently, Parasite is breaking all sorts of records on American streaming platforms like Hulu. So, how was Parasite able to become so acclaimed in the United States, where foreign films have often struggled to gain popularity? I think it's because director Bong Joon Ho largely uses physical structure, camera angles, and props to convey and reinforce his themes throughout the movie, which can all be identified and interpreted universally. Director Bong had the exact shots and sets meticulously mapped out long before production design or filming even began. Bong sketched out an extensive storyboard for each scene in Parasite, complete with dialogue and camera behavior, until the storyboards became fully bound books. Every frame is carefully drawn out even before filming begins. Unlike most directors, Bong never shoots coverage. That is, multiple shots from various angles and perspectives that get edited together later. Instead, he shoots exactly what he imagines, editing on set as he goes. As a result, the storyboard looks a lot like the final cut. This shows that the cinematography and configuration of each shot was deliberate in telling the story or reinforcing a theme. The same was true for the set design. I didn't know until after watching the film that all the sets were built on outdoor lots. Bong Joon Ho and production designer Lee Ha-jun designed the two homes to accentuate the major themes of the film, including sunlight and elevation, while also serving as a universe in which the characters live and infiltrate. The universe is structured vertically so that the upper-class parks are at the top and the lower-class Kims are at the bottom. Throughout the film, Bong uses elevation and sunlight to symbolize social class. The Kims live and sleep in densely packed rooms below the street and even below their own toilet. However, the window in their semi-basement apartment lets the sunlight in from the street, and according to Bong in an interview with Architectural Digest, it really reflects the psyche of the Kim family. You're still half over ground, so there's this hope and this sense that you still have access to sunlight, and you haven't fallen completely into the basement yet. It's this weird mixture of hope and this fear that you can fall even lower. When Min gifts the Scholar's Rock to the Kims, they become hopeful that the rock may explicitly symbolize their ascent in socioeconomic status, as it's supposed to bring families material wealth.
야, 이거 진짜 상징적인 거네.
And the plot instantly reinforces that belief, as the following scene shows Min providing Ki-woo with a tutoring job for the rich Parks. The scene then follows Ki-woo climbing up out of their narrow, semi-basement apartment and up to the park's right spacious street. When Ki-woo enters the park residence, a low-angle track rises with him into the park's vibrant garden, blanketed in sunlight. This scene shows Ki-woo's ascension in social status through nothing more than visual language, him physically climbing out of his cluttered, poorly lit home and into the brilliant, spacious park residence. The park's house was built on a specific outdoor lot that provided ample exposure to sunlight. Bong and Lee designed the house so that it feels like an oasis, both in that it has lush greenery showered in sun, but more importantly in that it feels isolated from the rest of the world, of which it stands atop. The tall hedges and trees prevent the parks from seeing the stinky lower class whose work below enables the parks to live their luxurious lives. The park's couch faces their massive window and bright garden as it shows their visual appreciation of their own success. The spacious house is also designed so that the bunker and the people hidden in it are entirely invisible to the parks, even though the people living down there are the people allowing their house to run. This structure transcends culture and language, as a similar dynamic is common in most cultures. The rich live in neighborhoods segregated from the poor, while the rich outsource much of the neighborhood's upkeep.
뭐야? 누구야 이 시간에?
뭐냐?
Once the housekeeper leads the Kims to the bunker, the high-angle track down into the dark, narrow bunker structurally feels like a descent from heaven to hell. The high-angle track makes it feel like you're falling with Jung-suk out of the surreal luxury of briefly living in the park's home and into the darkness that feels equally surreal, falling even lower than where you started into a place without sunlight. And Bong additionally uses camera angles to convey power disparity. In the bunker, Bong uses high-angle shots which look down at a character to make them feel powerless and small, while low-angle shots look up at a character when they're in a position of power. At the beginning of the scene, Jung-suk holds the power in her threatening to call the police, but once Moon Gwang sees the family fall down the stairs, the power instantly shifts, and so do the camera angles. Also in the bunker, when the creepy guy turns on the lights for Mr. Park every day as he walks up the stairs, it reinforces the idea that the park's house is built as an oasis fueled by the work of the invisible lower class. Mr. Park is entirely ignorant to the fact that he doesn't have motion-censored lights, and that, in order for them to turn on, this has to happen.
Respect!
Finally, the vertical configuration of the sets and the universe physically displays environmental injustice across social classes. When the massive rainstorm hits in the middle of the film, it affects both families very differently. While it ruins the park's camping trip, it doesn't have many further repercussions as their house sits atop the city and water flows downward. The Parks get to lounge on their couch and get comfortable. Like the rainwater, the Kims get pushed downward as they scramble to get back home. The scene of their descent visually illustrates just how far they are from the Parks, both financially and physically. The audience is already so exhausted emotionally from the tense sequence before that the tragedy of all the rain runoff from the city collecting on the Kim's poor street really resonates with the audience, as you feel the anguish when Ki-taek looks at his wife's ruined metal. Sewage water has wrecked their home and all their belongings as a direct result of their placement on the physical totem pole in Parasite's universe. Bong's juxtaposition of the two families sends a clear message about environmental injustice across social classes. As Ki-woo searches the waterlogged apartment, he sees the Scholar's Rock float to the surface, revealing that it, like its message of wealth and prosperity, is fake and hollow. This scene is one of the most depressing in the movie, as it shows the object which embodies Ki-woo's aspiration for social ascension is truly just a source of false hope. And, like in the final scenes of the film, that false hope will only ever bring him down.